Hey guys, it is Wednesday, May 8th. Hope you guys enjoyed the intro there on the video for the live stream on Twitch, kind of playing around with that. Looking for new ways to kind of spice it up a little bit in terms of the videos. And then this will also be on the podcast for this week as well. So if you are listening to this on the podcast, definitely check out the video on Twitch and on YouTube. There'll be a lot of images and a lot of descriptions and explainers for the topic today, which is on cryptovoxels. I've been wanting to do this for a little bit. I've talked about it in the past, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on what cryptovoxels is exactly, because I've talked about it, and I'm sure a number of you already understand what it is. But I do want to kind of update you on some things that have changed and some things that in the future might actually elevate the project and the platform as well as a dApp on the Ethereum blockchain. So there's a lot of cool things I want to talk about. I'll try and get through it relatively quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but feel free to afterwards comment, ask questions, send me some messages, and I'll do my best to answer as well. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So there are two things in particular regarding cryptovoxels that I want to talk about today. One, obviously, what's new with cryptovoxels, what's going on, how has it changed, and where is it going necessarily, and how has it done the first quarter of 2019 now that it's about a year old. And then I also want to talk about something called Frankfurt College, something that I'm starting on the Ethereum blockchain that's already kind of exists, but it will be a virtual college in essence, where you can go to learn about certain topics in blockchain and get a actual certificate proving that you took those courses and that you have that skill set in that particular topic. And I'll get into that towards the end of the video / podcast as well. So stay around for that at the end. So a couple updates before I jump into everything cryptovoxels. I am planning another trip to Colombia, to Medellin in September, hopefully for an extended period of time, be able to meet with a number of people and kind of understand how crypto and blockchain are affecting the economy down in Colombia. So that'll be fun. That'll be in September, I think. Then another cool topic, also, Bitcoin is approaching 6,000. I think it's at like 5,900 right now, and that's about 56% of the market cap. So the last few times that we've seen Bitcoin really push the market cap upwards, it's always spilled over into all the other altcoins. So while a lot of people might be a little confused, might not be sure what's going on, might think that alt season is over, alt season hasn't even begun. We're still coming out of this long 2018 crypto winter that we've had, and Bitcoin approaching 6,000 is a big number. It's an important number. That was before the last Tether incident I think we had, where Bitcoin dropped below like 64, 65, and before the hash war started back in like November. So it is a significant target for Bitcoin to break through, and if Bitcoin does break through the 6,000 barrier and upwards towards 7,000, you'll probably see a lot more money pour in very quickly in 2019, and then you'll see that spill over into altcoins like Ethereum and Litecoin, Cardano, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something to keep a close eye on if you like charting, if you like staring at the numbers all day. Another thing I noticed was I like watching the TV show called Billions on Showtime, and in the last episode, I think they mentioned blockchain like 8 times, 10 times in a row. They're talking about this blockchain voting system and this pilot program and whatnot, like in the episode. And it was really interesting how many times they actually said blockchain, how many times they mentioned blockchain. It was almost like they were promoting it and kind of regurgitating it. But it was also kind of refreshing because they weren't talking about crypto specifically. They weren't talking about which they have in the past. They've had Ledger on the show. They've talked about crypto and moving money in crypto. They've talked about ICOs in a couple episodes back. But it's nice to see them talk about the technology and what the technology can do, specifically in terms of voting. I think that's a really important aspect of blockchain. So that was cool to see as well. Other than the updates, let's talk about the stats for Cryptovoxels to get started. I'm borrowing this from my friend CL20. I'll let him remain anonymous, but definitely go check out his Medium page. I'm borrowing some charts from him. Hopefully he doesn't mind. But they do a good job explaining how Cryptovoxels has grown in the first quarter of 2019 and just 2019 in general so far. It's pretty much exploded. It's had $38,000 in trade volume, 69,000 plus market cap. On average per land, it's like 0.45 Ether, which has kind of fluctuated a little bit. 579 parcels traded. If you look at the charts too, the total market cap has gone up quite a bit since January for sure. A lot of that has to do with new neighborhoods and new parcels being launched and the community growing a ton. So that's something we'll also talk about, and it's kind of playing into this. And there's a lot of other dApps that are starting to spill over into Cryptovoxels that's pushing that market cap up and pushing that trade volume up, which you see in March and April especially, which is when we had a huge influx of CryptoKitty players and Axie players on these dApps and CryptoPunks and whatnot. And there's been a lot of attention around OpenSea and Ethereum's dApp ecosystem. And that has drawn a lot of people into Cryptovoxels as well, and has also launched Cryptovoxels from a top 30 dApp to a top 15, top 10 dApp. And you've also seen that in trading volume where people are buying parcels and that are putting their non-fungible tokens, NFTs, on these parcels and putting their CryptoKitties, their Axies, whatever, all this stuff. They're showcasing their dApps, their NFTs on these parcels. And they're also using them for educational purposes, for hopefully creating commerce, for virtual art, which is also another important aspect. And there seems to be a pretty big community around Cryptovoxels that's growing. And it's creating quite a diverse community at that, in terms of who wants to use Cryptovoxels for what purpose. So there are people that want to use it strictly for RPGs, or people that want to use it strictly for shilling their NFTs. There's no issue with that at all. There's people that want to use it for creating a bit of an economy, creating some commerce, and there are people that want to use it for art and all other kinds of reasons too. But the wide variety in the community is a good sign, and is a sign of a lot of growth as well. So I'd say first part of 2019 has been awesome for Cryptovoxels statistically. And like I talked about, neighborhoods are a big reason why they have spiked. I'll take a better picture next time. I didn't let it render all the way, but you get the idea. There's a lot of new neighborhoods, and there's a lot of different parcels. Frankfurt being one of the probably most iconic neighborhood in Cryptovoxels. Again, if you're on the podcast, I highly recommend that you watch the video on YouTube or on Twitch, so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm pointing out, but I'll do my best to kind of explain it. So Frankfurt is a new neighborhood that kind of showcases the tallest parcels in Cryptovoxels, and kind of has that metro city vibe to it. And it's kind of already shaping up in that general direction. And you'll probably see a lot of people in Frankfurt that will want to maybe do commerce, that might want to actually engage in trading, NFTs and whatnot in the future. So it's kind of taking on that shape right now. And then there's these other semi-quasi niche neighborhoods, the Oasis, kind of based off of Ready Player One a little bit, and probably will take shape in a different way. Little Tokyo, Area 51, North Pole, a lot of these based on certain things, and they're taking a general theme in mind. And a lot of the parcel owners work together, and you'll kind of get some really unique theme-based neighborhoods. And then you also got CryptoKitties, Axes, CryptoPunk neighborhoods that are kind of based around the NFTs and that community within the Ethereum realm of crypto economics. So there's a lot of new neighborhoods that have come out, and I didn't mention Doom. I didn't mention the accumulation of parcels in certain areas like Les Marais, Fantasy Fields, parcel accumulation going on in the Deep South, the West End, and yada, yada, yada. It's just, in particular, it's growing like crazy in all kinds of different directions. And in the North Pole, being basically bought up and turned into an educational center, an educational area within Cryptovoxels. So a lot of these new neighborhoods and parcels that have been launched have led to this volume, have led to this increased market cap in Cryptovoxels. And I think we'll continue seeing that throughout 2019. But I think we are either a third of the way there or almost a third of the way there in terms of the maximum amount of parcels that will actually be launched on CV. So we're getting to the point where we're going to max out the parcels. And there are a lot of empty parcels still that aren't even bought or aren't even built on. But I guarantee you those are going to go very quickly in 2019, as they have already, which is kind of the reason why there's more neighborhoods that have been pumped out. So I could see these being copped up pretty quickly. So I would jump in, and if you're interested, and find something you like and kind of play around with it. The community is really helpful, and they'll kind of direct you in terms of what you want to do, and they'll very, very helpful people. I like all those guys and all those gals. They'll definitely be able to give you some advice on what you're doing in terms of, I don't know, art or NFTs or economics or education. But yeah, definitely jump in before it gets all taken up. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is not just this thing called Subtrata specifically, but how this is so early and why Cryptovoxels, and I've mentioned this in the past, not just about Cryptovoxels, but about virtual worlds, virtual land in general. It's going to continue evolving. It's not going to look fake and blocky forever. It's going to look very, very real. And with the advent of VR and AR and mixed reality, it's going to feel very real. And you're going to spend a lot of time there. Gaming, virtual worlds, all this stuff you're going to experience with all five senses in 6 Degrees of Freedom. And I'll also talk about that in a little bit too. But again, if you're on the podcast, I highly recommend you go to YouTube or Twitch to kind of see what I'm showing you, because this one's kind of hard to explain. But for those of you that are actually watching the video, Subtrata is a C++ metaverse, if I understand it correctly, and allows you to kind of import virtual worlds like Cryptovoxels into it to kind of render it a certain way. So this is the map rendered in Subtrata. Here's some other photos of Cryptovoxels rendered in Subtrata. You can see the ray tracing and the shading looks absolutely amazing and almost looks completely real. Imagine if you were in VR and you were sitting there on top of the building looking out at, which I believe is Frankfurt, from a distance. It's pretty incredible. You got the shading, you got the sun, you got the angles, got the ray tracing. It looks and feels very, very real. Here's another view of Frankfurt in particular, and it kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like in terms of a city, what Cryptovoxels will look like in terms of a virtual world where you can walk around and interact with people and have a social experience with other people that you know or don't know, do business, trade. There's also the nighttime and daytime version of it right there. It looks really interesting. So yeah, I wanted to kind of show you guys that and kind of highlight where this project is going, and not this project, just this project, but where projects like this will continue to go in the future as well. I think there's just so much potential with it, and seeing stuff like this is really inspiring. It really gives you an idea of how gaming in general has shaped our idea of reality and how we will use these platforms to create a new reality for whatever we need. So yeah, all this stuff is really, really interesting. I also want to talk about the two main tokens on Cryptovoxels, color and name tokens. I don't think they get enough talk, and I think they're kind of important since Cryptovoxels is a black and white world. I think we should talk about color for a second. So you had to buy color previously through B Nolan in order to make your parcel non-black and white, non-boring. So color kind of is a commodity in this world, but it's kind of getting around now, and it looks like you can now buy it on Uniswap. So that's some new information that's been released, and for those of you that have or have not been in CV for a while, or at least since the beginning of 2019, this is a new change. So going to Uniswap, you can buy color now. You don't have to dive into the DMs and find B Nolan, Lord Nolan, and try and buy some color. So that should make it a little bit easier. And then if you go to the website under the documentation, there's tons of information on how to get the color from Uniswap, how to deposit it, withdraw it, how to attach it to a parcel so you can use it, remove it from a parcel. I'm not going to go into all that detail. I just want to talk about Uniswap for a second. But yeah, definitely go check that out in the documentation. And then the other token, name token, I think it's highly underrated. I think we kind of undervalue the fact at this point in a virtual world, it's going to be very, very difficult to ID and verify who someone is. At this point in time, I can go and squat names all day long for famous people, and if that famous person comes into Cryptovoxels, you'll never know, because I might have his name or someone else might have his or her name. And I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue, and I think that's something that maybe the community should talk about a little bit more. And at the same time, some way to kind of verify who is who, maybe by your wallet address as an option would be nice, because if you're trading with someone or you're meeting with someone, you kind of need to verify that you're talking to the right person. And we spend a lot of time, I know, in the community talking about all the clothing items and the hats and the swords that we can wield and run around, and how it'd be so much fun to create an RPG and shoot each other up. And I agree, all that stuff is really fun too, but when I meet up with someone, I don't know who I'm actually meeting up with unless I can check their Ethereum address, because I can attach an identity to that Ethereum address. So I think with these name tokens, we need to start being able to attach the Ethereum addresses to those name tokens somehow, or something separate from that, so that we can verify who we're interacting with in the real world. So that's not much of an update, but it is a thought of mine that I kind of want to throw out there, as names haven't, or the name token really hasn't been talked about too much. And I think it's underrated right now, and people should talk about it a bit more, because you don't know how many names I'm squatting. I don't know how many names other people are squatting. And I guarantee you, if you want to use your real name, or you want to use a different name that you use somewhere else, or you want to be anonymous and use something else, someone might already have it. And that might affect you. That might affect you from a business perspective. That might affect you from a trading perspective, from meeting with people, or getting scammed. So that's definitely something that the community should consider a little bit more. The other thing I want to talk about as well, as we get closer to Frankfurt College, is, and this kind of plays into it too, but AR, mixed reality, virtual reality. And again, I hope you watched the video on YouTube or on Twitch, because this is pretty cool. It kind of showcases how you're going to be able to use AR, MR, VR, whatever, to interact in a virtual way. How you're going to be able to interact not just with other people, but with the virtual world itself. And the cool thing about the Oculus Quest for VR is that you'll have 6 degrees of freedom, no cords, no PC attached, anything like that. And it'll it'll make it a lot easier to kind of interact in a virtual world, and it'll make it more consumer friendly, and it'll be relatively fairly priced. So I think that's something that's going to be a big game changer as we head into the summer, looking at VR in general, and then that's going to help spill over into what's going on in AR and mixed reality. And I was in LA a couple weeks ago, and I tried the Magic Leap? I think it's like Magic Leap or something like that. Mixed reality. That was really cool. That felt really real. I put that on, walked around a store, was able to interact with everything in that store and see prices and see information about products. But imagine if you could use that tech, like in the video here, to interact with Cryptovoxels, to build on those parcels, to design, to create. I just think it's limitless, and it just opens up a new idea of what your canvas can be in general. So I can't emphasize anymore how important that stuff's going to be. I think I'm skipping ahead here. All right, finally get to Frankfurt College. So the Frankfurt College of Blockchain in Cryptovoxels is essentially going to be a virtual college where in Cryptovoxels, if you go to the Frankfurt neighborhood, you will be able to walk in and go to different classrooms. And in those classrooms, you'll be able to choose specific courses. And I haven't decided on what all those courses are going to be, but the idea is I want to create a central hub for people that want to learn about certain topics in blockchain. I'm going to start with proof of work, and I'm going to start with proof of stake, where people can interact with each other, maybe hear a lecture from someone in the field, where you'll be able to click on and take a course either in the world or a link out of the world to a external platform that will offer a certificate. And I want to include that education for free as well, but I want that education to also lead you to some type of certificate or degree that will certify you as best as possible in that course, so that in the workplace, if you're a coder or if you're just some random person that wants to learn more about it, or for some reason your job requires it, I want to be able to structure and put up a course that is in demand, maybe around proof of work, maybe around proof of stake, where you can go in VR and learn about this stuff from people at the virtual college, and then take these courses that are structured to teach you this stuff, and then have a actual certificate, a physical certificate they will get mailed to you through Udemy or Coursera. I'm still working on that. And a digital certificate based around an NFT, maybe something that you can carry around on your Ethereum address, in your Ethereum address, to prove that you have this skill as well. I just think that education is continually evolving, and I think that our educational system that puts students in debt, that essentially screws over young men and women, is going to collapse. And I think it's going to collapse under the student debt. I think it's going to be detrimental for a lot of people that don't have a degree that can actually help them. And for a lot of people that have degrees in art and sociology and fields that aren't easy to get a job in, that aren't easy to take into the field unless you have something very specific in mind. And I know a lot of people with these degrees that are having a hard time because they just don't guarantee you a job. You're not going to get a job over someone that has way more experience than you in a field nowadays. Unless you're in a trade like being a doctor or being a lawyer, you're not guaranteed work. You're not guaranteed a job. So, but I think there's a lot of opportunity in coding. There's a lot of opportunity and growth and demand in blockchain as well. And I think providing course material and a certificate or degree, maybe with the right backing, will actually allow certain people to get that job, that six-figure job, that coding job, that blockchain job, while these colleges just don't offer anything. on blockchain or anything good on blockchain. And honestly, a lot of these colleges don't understand it in depth. And I don't care what the professors think they know. They really don't understand it in depth. So I think I could offer a way better course than any of these colleges in general. And I think a number of other people can actually help with that too. So this is also a side project that I'm working on and trying to get up as quickly as possible to test it out and see how it works. But I wanted to throw that out there because BlockHash is going to be running it, and it'll be under BlockHash. It'll be Frankfurt College on the Cryptovoxels blockchain, but BlockHash will essentially be running it. So I wanted to put that out there. I thought it was something that would be important, and for a lot of you guys, you might find it interesting. You might find it exciting. So definitely stay tuned for more information on that. Hopefully I can crank this out over the summer. I'd like to get this going sometime this summer and then maybe get something more official by September, but I'll have a better idea as I get the Trello page set up and as I kind of get this all sorted out. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm working on having more guests on the podcast. I know you guys love that stuff. It's all logistical. It's very difficult to find new people that kind of mesh with your schedule and their schedule. But we're in talks right now to get Ledger on the podcast pretty soon to talk about Ledger Vault. So that's coming up around the corner. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the Twitch channel, subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, again, please go watch this video because it's easier to explain things for this podcast. If you actually watch the video, there's a lot of visuals. So please go watch the video, not just the podcast this time. But thank you for listening on the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching the video, hit the like button, share with someone you think would enjoy this, someone you think would benefit from blockchain, someone that you think that would be interested in Cryptovoxels. Share this with gamers, share this with coders. I think a lot of people in general will be interested in this. So you never know. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. Bring it up this summer while you guys are out on the water, when you're on the beaches. Talk about the stuff. Bring it up. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.